Okay, we're actually in the gallery now due to the fact that I had real bad sense of timing with that quick downpour that we had and the wind kicked up. But we're going to finish the interview and give you a nice walking tour of the exhibit right here and give you a better example. And here in the gallery, one of the things that I really love about the way it's displayed, because I always try to do a little bit of the technical in the review, is you have one half where it's the street musicians, the other half where it's real life, and then back in the corner, if you literally just like, you literally do a walkthrough, and back in the corner there, it's the transition between one and the other, and it's a combination.
And that's kind of what I was going for. The street stories. This is kind of very linear. There's a progression to it where you get to hear, and you stop being alone, and now you're with people.
I didn't even take notice of that, to be completely honest with you.
Right, to the point where, it ends up two people, people in love at the end.
Right.
So there's a natural progression to that.
Right.
On the street musician side, it's also linear, and the progression is, you start with relatively new musician. She's learning her guitar, she's learning her craft, and it moves up in level of experience. You have the sage,
Right.
the sage is passing it on to the young.
And the cycle continues.
The cycle continues. The four in the middle are the four that I consider to be the masters of the work.
Okay.
These are the four that, for different genres of music, these four are at, they sit on the top of the mountain.
Right.
And then we have one missing from here, but now you have that experience, and it just progresses all the way out until we get to, this is one of our masters. He's, my way of looking at it is he, at the end of this line, is looking at you to say, don't forget about how this line progressed.
Everything that happened before me.
And the musicians that start at the beginning and get all the way to where he is.
Right.
He doesn't want you to forget about it.
Wow. I honestly, I apologize. I never even thought about seeing it that way.
And then, like you said, you picked up on it. When you get to the medley wall, this is where the two collections slam into each other.
Right.
And the reason why it's like that is because this is how you would see it in real life.
Right. Walk down the street of city.
You would see, the steel worker and the musicians and just guys walking down the street, guys, doing construction.
I see it every time I go down to Philly.
Right, and it's anywhere really.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't see it all in a linear progression the way that the two walls were curated.
Yeah.
Back.
I never, like I said, I've been here 3 times and I never saw it that way. But that is really, it's just wow. I actually have a chill when I think about it. And that's obscenely difficult for that to happen to me.
Now these three here, these are offset because I wanted these to be special. There's a little string group, clarinet, stand-up bass, and a banjo player playing outside a museum in Paris, and she was with the group, but all she was doing was dancing.
Okay.
And they were playing old 1920s, 1930s music, which she looks like she just stepped out of the 20s.
Right.
The way she's dressed.
Yeah.
And,
almost like a flapper.
Right. And so I wanted that. She's the one that everybody's drawn to, but I wanted these three. This is her in action,
right.
with this band.
Right.
And this is her connection to the band. And she's just, everybody who sat there and watched it just fell in love with her.
Okay. Now, when you go out and take the photos,
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that there's 2 ways that this could be done. You could either walk out you could either be at your home and say, you know what, I'm gonna go out and see what's happening on the street and see if there's anything interesting that catches my eye. Or you could just say, okay, I'm gonna go for a walk and have your camera with you, and okay, whatever. So it's almost like pre-planned versus spontaneous. Which do you do more often, or which do you prefer?
Spontaneous by far. Yeah. I don't I have my collection of street musicians is here, but I never set out to create a collection of street musicians.
Okay.
I just shot them as I saw them. Street stories over here. I didn't go out looking for it. I just went out, like you said, for a walk. The photographs that are from Paris, this is the first time I'd been to Paris in my life. So I was there for 6 days, and I must have walked 10 miles a day because the city is just wonderful. And I always had my camera with me. And when I saw the stories that or the scenes that I, was drawn to, if I could get them, if I could photograph them, then all the better. But I never set out to, all right, I'm going to go out looking for, this particular scene.
Right.
I go out for a walk, I take my camera. My camera's with me pretty much everywhere I go.
Okay. Now, I have two final questions, and one of them is about a couple of my personal favorites here.
Sure.
I have to get that in. And I always end every interview with your advice to other people, especially to younger generations about, especially in areas like, pretty much we're in the indie world now, and photography, it's getting harder and harder to get noticed, no matter how much level. So, but yeah, if you don't mind, I want to hit on a couple of my favorites here.
Sure.
Now, this one right here is just, as I pointed out to you, the way you did this, that background, this photo could be seen in several different ways. In fact, I see it in two primary ones. This was just the way, especially the far background of it. Hopefully, people will see what I'm talking about. It's just the way you did it. And not only that, it has a truth, almost like a 3D aspect to it with the foreground versus the background.
Yeah, well, what drew me to this when I shot this was this couple and this couple here, and this is Washington Square Park in Greenwich Village in New York City.
Okay.
And this is, I think, January is when I shot that. But there was just a lot of people walking around holding hands, and in the middle of New York City, it was just kind of this cool vibe,
Almost seemed unusual.
Yeah, everybody was relaxed, and so I happened to be walking around the outside of the park, and I was looking down, and I'm always somewhat composing in my head when I'm looking at stuff. So what I was seeing was, these perspective lines going in, and this shot framed by the lamppost and this tree over here, and this couple, just as I'm looking at that, they just kind of happened to walk in the frame. I thought, oh, that's really sweet. That's a nice. And then looking up past them is these guys, and so it makes this layer now, and it's your foreground and your midground, and then the background here, and then the part that you're pointing out that I didn't try to do, but
right.
Is this archway of trees here, and it goes back into whatever you want to interpret that to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know what that is, but it could be. It could be a lot of different.
It could be something real. It could be something from the imagination of sci-fi fantasy.
Absolutely, yeah. It could be a lot of different things.
Well, with the way you frame this, I try not to, let people know my interpretation, but this time I'm going to, with the light posts and everything, it's almost like this is a gateway, whether it's to something, a gateway or a portal, or to something, whether it's real in this world or something out of the imagination.
Yeah,
so, it's like people entering and leaving a different, not necessarily a different part of the city, but possibly, it's a different place altogether.
Sure. No, I think that's a really cool interpretation of it. Absolutely.
So now we have to get to my favorite. I cannot resist this. Actually, and when I stopped by the last time, when I was leaving and walking, I actually started combining these two and got a really cool, totally different story.
Yeah.
Now this one up here, I still come up with different ways of seeing it and ways of interpreting it.
Well, that is shot in Paris.
Okay.
That's at the Louvre Museum on the outside. They have these great sort of pass-throughs that are sort of like pedestrian tunnels almost, and they go from one giant courtyard to another giant courtyard. But if you're a musician, the acoustics inside of it are incredible, right? So she was in one of these passageways, just playing, and people were stopping to listen to her, and people were throwing money in her case and everything. But she was, wherever her music is, that's where she was. She was not with the crowd. She was just, the violin playing is coming out, it's going up over, it just wraps the entire
So essentially-
passageway around.
So essentially, the person, the instrument, and the music became one entity.
Right, right, and so she was just, wherever that music was, she was all in it. And
Okay.
the fact that people were stopping and listening, not that she didn't care, but it didn't matter. She was playing just to play.
She was playing for the
love of
music, not for the money, not for the people,
Right.
not even for herself. She was
Exactly.
playing for the music.
Exactly.
Now
And
this-
it was beautiful too.
Now this one right here is from Allentown, I believe, right here in
Yes.
Allentown. And I think I mean, I'm going to refrain from any personal opinions, but anyway, even though it's very difficult, but anyway, this is almost like a perfect winter shot of the streets in a lot of areas, even Philadelphia, like on a Sunday evening, in Philadelphia, New York, I'm sure you could easily find locations where you just see that one person, just the streets
Right.
are empty except for
Well,
that one person.
I've had a couple of people say that, who grew up around here. One gentleman came in and he saw that and he said, that is Allentown.
Yeah.
That is Allentown in the wintertime. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And that was,
And that's not saying anything bad about Allentown.
No,
that's
not a
just,
bit.
That's
No.
just the reality
Not a
of
bit.
it.
No, I only took that about 4 or 5 weeks ago. We were here in the gallery. It was a slow day. There was nobody coming in and out. My wife, Margot, was here. And I said, you know what, it's a nice day out. And it was getting to be 3:30, 4 o'clock when the sun's down here, so it makes all these nice long shadows down Hamilton.
Yep, but
So
make sure if you're walking up Hamilton at that time, make sure you're on the right side if you want to stay warm.
Yeah, exactly. So I just went out for a walk, and it was like, it was really cool lighting. It was beautiful lighting, and I was really taken by this building because it reminded me a lot of the Empire State Building. They're built in the same era, that
Okay.
same Art Deco style construction. I'm not an architecture expert, but
Yeah.
so I was really taken by that, and I stopped. I happened to stop right there, just kind of admiring that building, and I just caught this guy coming up the sidewalk, just out of the corner of my eye, and happened to get a really good frame on him, and I couldn't be more pleased with this shot. I think this is personally, I think this is one of the best I've taken in a while.
Okay.
The way I was able to get it composed with the trees framing, and then the reflection of the trees.
Yeah, the
framing,
reflection is
and
really
then the
cool.
building framing, and he's just a guy that's going about his day.
And that reflection has a kind of a whole new concept, and could, depending on how people see it, could add a whole new meaning to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, for everybody out there who's viewing this, if you really want to use your imagination, like I did, combine the one we just showed you of the woman playing the violin with this one, kind of like doing overlay, a mental overlay.
Right.
And that's where you can come up with an entirely different,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
very cool story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, one final question. Like I said, I always end every interview with your advice to other photographers, people who, not just with their phones or anything, but people who actually want to seriously get into photography more than just your studio.
Sure.
Because I noticed that the street photography is catching on now more and more.
Yeah, well, that's good.
But your
I-
advice to people, especially like education versus experience area.
Right. Well, I'm not formally trained. I'm not a formally trained photographer. Everything I do, I learned on my own.
Self-taught.
What the advice that I would give is the same advice that I gave to a couple of high school kids who stopped in here after school one day, shortly after we opened up, and we got to talking about the photography, and they were kind of asking questions. And the biggest thing that I told them was, this is a very sped up world.
Right.
And with everybody having a camera in their pocket and everybody's clicking pictures and clicking pictures and clicking pictures, I said, the best advice that I can give to them or to any photographer that whether they're shooting street photography or they're shooting wildlife or even landscape photography, the best thing to do is just to slow down.
Okay.
To slow down and recognize the moments that you're seeing. If you just, everybody needs to slow down and stop speeding through the world, and you'll actually start to see the stories of the people that you're walking past. We walk past these people every single day. We walk past this guy every single day. Nobody slows down to pay any attention to your passing stories. Everybody has a story, and you're walking past them every single day. Now, you don't necessarily have to interact with them. You don't have to photograph everybody. But if you can slow down and just realize that you're walking past another person's story, that would inform your photography, your art, however you want to express yourself, your music.
Right.
Instead of, I'm going to shoot everything that I see and hope to come up with something, take the time and watch those moments happen.
Take the time and live and experience life versus just watching it.
Right. There have been plenty of times when I've been out. Like I said, I shoot some nature photography too. I don't show it. That's mostly just for me and for fun because I like hiking and things like that.
And also, I'm sure it gives you mental break and creative break.
Right. And there's plenty of times where I'll be laying down in the grass or something watching these bald eagles flying around, and instead of putting a camera in my face between me and what I'm watching, it's better for me to just sometimes just be in that moment, to turn the camera off and just sit there and take in what I'm seeing.
Right.
It's a very, kind of a Zen experience, and it's, they would have been beautiful photographs, but it was a better experience for me personally to actually be there in it.
Now, do you think doing that helps your photography in general?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it has taught me to slow down in my life and pay attention to.
That's some advice I
What's
need to
going on.
take. Because it's one of those. You said about the sped up life. Yeah, I'm the type where with my life, okay, do the article, post it, post it to YouTube, forget about it.
Yeah,
It's like on to the next.
on to the next
It's
thing.
so
Yeah.
it's some advice I really need to pay. I even need to pay attention to because my life is constantly on the go,
Yeah.
and I love it that way. But when I did the holiday greeting for spring and Easter, it's like, okay, take some time out every once in a while,
Yeah.
and enjoy life with your family. Just
Yeah,
enjoy life and live it.
Yeah, with whatever it is, just try to slow down and catch those moments and be in them.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's
All right, Mike.